This one is a personal little fantasy that I have going right now because we are talking. Are you ready? We're going to talk chocolate. You can just look at me and tell I am committed to chocolate. Today, I actually, in our own backyard, we have Ethel M Chocolates. Amazing. Which, by the way, boys, we're going to discuss where that name came from, but we can do that in a moment. I wanted to introduce to everybody Mr. Stu Hawk. I say
everybody, you pronounced it right. Thank you.
I know, I love that. I told you I wrote it phonetically. And Mark Mackey, which, by the way, that's pretty easy. It is spelled the way it sounds. So I'm very excited. Now, one of you is all doctored up, I see.
Yeah, so I've got my chef coat here.
I love that. And there's a reason for that, right, Mark? You're like the most important person next to Stu, of course, at Ethel M.
I wouldn't say most important, but what I do, I think, is really a lot of the recipe development, the product development. So we have these beautiful boxes here, doing all of the delicious development of the truffles, the flavors, the caramels, all those different products, as well as the packaging as well, because you got to have a beautiful box to put all the beautiful chocolate.
And that's true, but I'm going to tell you, in the end, if you set in front of me a cardboard box and a piece of chocolate separately, I'm going to give you one guess which one I'm going to first. Go ahead, guess. Yeah, the chocolate.
Yeah, probably the chocolate.
So there's a bunch of reasons why I wanted to talk to you. One of them was, you don't realize what a science, right? And how it's not just, let's put some chocolate together and everything's great. I didn't realize there's so many different aspects to chocolate. And that's when Stu said, hey, well, we got to talk to Mark. Mark's the guy. Mark, tell me what you do at Ethel M.
So, as you mentioned, chocolate, as much as it is fun to kind of just mix different flavors together, there is a lot of science behind it. So chocolate is actually, it's one of the most complex foods out there and food systems out there. It contains over 600 different aroma compounds and flavor compounds that make up what we call that flavor of chocolate. And, because it's so unique and complex, you need to handle it and treat it very carefully to get all of those delicious flavors to come out the way that you're looking for. Some of you may know, like, for example, if you've ever had a chocolate that maybe sat in your car, maybe melted a little bit or started to kind of melt. And when it re-solidified, it looked like kind of dull maybe, or kind of, had like a hazy appearance to it. That's actually, there's a chemical scientific name for that, and that's called detempering. That chocolate has been tempered, and when it detempered, that kind of that appearance is impacted by that. And so, you have to treat the chocolate very, very carefully, very controlled heating and cooling to allow for that to set up and look very glossy and shiny and really have all those characteristics that you're looking for.
Does it change the flavor as well?
So the flavor of the chocolate, not as much, but the way that it melts, absolutely. So,
right.
Like when you put a piece of chocolate, you pick one up and it starts to melt right away in your hand. That can be caused by a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is not properly tempered chocolate. So when you temper, there's actually 6 different crystalline structures that chocolate can set up, and we're looking for just one. And that one is going to give us all of those beautiful characteristics. And when you bite into it, it's going to have like a nice snap. It's going to start to melt really nicely and silky smooth on your tongue.
Oh my God. Okay. Slow it down, young man. I'm dying right here. I was like, why do I have chocolate in front of me right now? It's probably good I don't. Wow. You do an excellent job of explaining the science side of chocolate for sure.
And that's, honestly, that's just the chocolate. And you think about, a lot of our pieces that we offer at Ethel M, we have the chocolate component, but then there's also the center. So whether it's the caramel or the satin cream, or the truffle, that center has to be developed, in a very strict format as well, because, that all has to work together with the chocolate to give you that final texture. Things like nuts, for example, almonds, peanuts, macadamia nuts, those have their own kind of structures. And so making sure to handle all the ingredients properly in that finished piece is really paramount to giving you that experience.
So you're the guy then that comes up with that, let's put these two things together. Let's put this cherry soaked in brandy and this whatever chocolate put together.
So I've been with the Ethel M business now for about almost 6 years, and so yes, I am definitely the one that is coming up with a lot of the crazy combinations of flavors, some a little more crazier than others, but our business has been around actually since 1981. And one of the original innovators and formulators for that brand is actually Ethel Mars herself. And that is where the name Ethel M actually comes from.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew you were going to tell me. I felt it. Either that or I was going to force you. Oh, Ethel Mars. Okay.
So originally she was in her home kitchen developing, mixing flavors, creating these amazing chocolates. And, in her home kitchen, she was, would sell them out of her own home. And a lot of those original recipes are still actually in use today by our brand. And it's those that provided the inspiration for the Ethel M Chocolates brand and initial product portfolio.
Mm-hmm. So now we know we get Ethel M Chocolates. Did in her mind, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this question, were you either of you ever able to meet Ethel M, or was she like 5,000 years old?
I think Stu, do you know she?
Yeah, Ethel was Forrest's mother, Forrest Mars Sr., who moved out to the Las Vegas desert in the late 70s and decided to make one more brand in honor of his mother. And unfortunately, his mother passed away 1 year after he opened the store in 1982. So, she got to see it, but unfortunately, Mark and I have not had the chance to meet her. But we hear that she made some incredible chocolates that we still use some of those ingredients today. And Mark continues to innovate, though, like you said, beyond what, the recipes that she used, he's continued to iterate. I mean, Mark's created some incredible things, like the cherry cordial that you see over my shoulder here. It's a beautiful piece of chocolate. He brought that back.
We have some of these as well. These are some new truffles. You can see all those beautiful colors there. These are all have a very, what we call a shell molded shell, so a very thin profile. It really allows for that truffle experience to really be front and center and give you all of those wonderful qualities and melting profiles of the ganache, the chocolate as well.
Yeah.
Gee, Mark, I think you've done this before. I'm going to say maybe this isn't your first rodeo, but
I got to say, though, the most unique piece that Mark ever made, and I still remember this to this day, because before the coronavirus happened and we were all in the office on a regular basis, Mark would just bring new pieces of chocolate that he was working on in the kitchen, like over to my desk.
Oh my gosh.
10 in the morning, and I'm like 3 pieces of chocolate deep. But over this one that was a smoked sea salt that I think had a little bit of scotch on it, right?
Scotch, single malt scotch.
Single malt scotch. That was an interesting one.
It was a wake-up call at 9:30 in the morning.
But you know what's so interesting is that almost sounds too good to be true. And I'm not a huge scotch person, but I do understand the concept of blending flavors. And I have had smoked scotch before as a drink. And so to add chocolate to that, I'm already like, yes, when is that coming out, Mark? When will that chocolate be coming out?
It's interesting. I mean, when you're working on those flavors, you might think in your head like, oh, it might be kind of a weird combination. But when you kind of break it down, you're like, okay, this is contributing, a little bit of warmth from the alcohol, right? Some of that toasty, smoky flavor. And then, when you're blending that with like a caramel, for example, caramel's got a lot of like buttery notes, creamy notes, vanilla, caramelized sugar, right? And you think about like those smoky notes, they start to kind of enhance the caramel and enhance the qualities of the caramel and kind of take that idea and really just flips it on its side.
Right.
So it's a really neat way to kind of, you know, build upon, you know, something like a sea salted caramel that's, you know, that's also delicious, but kind of interpret it in a new way and add a little bit of a different like note to it.
And it was delicious. I can tell you firsthand, it was delicious.
Fine, Stu, rub it in. I'm telling you now, when we meet in person, I'm gonna be like, can we talk about that smoked salt?
Well, you know the guy now. You know the right guy to go to.
I might be able to hook you up with a little smoked salt.
Excuse me. Well, along those lines, actually, one of the other reasons why I wanted to talk to you is I don't know how aware you two are because you're men, and I'm sorry I had to make that slam, but I'm going to take it back now. Okay, I'm taking it back. But are you guys really aware? So chocolate is medicine for a lot of people, right? Is that a mantra that goes through your head when you're creating this stuff ever?
I mean, honestly, it's something that, you know, drives me every day. It's like you figure a lot of folks are going to work, you know, they're doing something that it's not their, you know, they're not maybe as passionate about it, you know, as they could be. And for me, like being able to say I come to work every day and I get to work with chocolate. It's like, not only is it fun to like, you know, do what I do and mix and create new products, but it's with chocolate, which is like one of the most like amazing substances,
right?
Food systems, foods in general that we as humans like enjoy. And being able to really give folks that amazing experience, and even coming into our retail store and seeing them firsthand, like try a truffle and seeing their smile, or, you know, it's almost like it's like working in an open kitchen. You know, if you're a chef, you know, you can actually look into the dining room and see those guests enjoying your food. And, you know, it's really that satisfaction that drives me, and my ability, you know, what I'm doing is really improving the lives of others and giving them really unique experiences through chocolate. So
you actually, I wholeheartedly agree with you. In all of the emphasis that we've been doing recently on mental health, sometimes it's great to return to those basics. And I think for me personally, on a daily basis, I've actually told my friends, I look for that, even if it's just one thing that brings me joy in that entire day. It could be a really crappy day, but if I can find just one thing that brings me joy, and I'm like, and it's okay for me to have that one thing on one day be chocolate, right? I mean, yes. And you're doing that all over the world. So.
And Sherry, I can tell you too, just about your question of chocolate as medicine. It's interesting because when the pandemic hit and officially everything in Nevada closed down, and across the country closed down in March of 2020, you know, we had to close our retail stores, which are, you know, primarily where people interact with our brand. So, you know, obviously health and safety comes first, and that was critically important to us. But we also thought, okay, well, you know, how are we going to, you know, make up for sales that we're losing during this period? What could we do? And a really interesting thing happened. As soon as we closed our store, our different stores, our e-commerce actually took off because so many people in March, April, and May turned to chocolate. They said, like, and it blew our minds. We didn't know what to expect. But when people were stressed at the beginning of the pandemic, they still wanted Ethel M Chocolates to be a part of their lives because, like you said, maybe it's a stressful day, maybe it's a stressful week, maybe it's a stressful year like we just had, but they still wanted their chocolate. And that hopefully the things that Mark's making, the things that our factory is making are still bringing smiles to people's faces, even in these challenging times. Yeah.
And I can tell you as a person dealing with challenging times that your chocolate does bring a smile to people's faces. And I have a friend that keeps the dark chocolate lemon bars in her freezer, and I know exactly where they are. If I have to go get one, I will.
Well, Mark might have some good news for you too about some products that we might be launching soon.
Oh, so actually, this is perfect because here is one of my questions that I've been thinking about. And that is, and you kind of said, you brought in this chocolate for them to try. Literally, what is the process? Like, how does it go from I have this idea to ta-da, here it is, it's for sale. I mean, like, what does the chocolate itself have to go through? What do you have to go through? You too, Stu, because you're the one that's got to generate the interest, right? I mean, what is that process?
Well, I think,
go ahead, Mark. I was just going to say, it's easy for me because Mark does such a good job that it just sells itself at that point.
Right, exactly. But boom, Choc, totally get it.
But, I mean, thinking about, in terms of flavors, for me, the first step I think is really like the inspiration, right? Where is the idea coming from? So, whether I'm seeing, some new desserts or new flavors being featured at, an upscale restaurant, at a trade show, or even just, now so much is available digitally on the internet. I mean, you can see what folks are doing in Asia, in Europe. So I like to kind of like look around even worldwide to see what flavor trends are working, what are like kind of on the horizon, and think about how those could work with chocolate. So, in a flavor combination, you typically want to have sometimes complementary flavors, then also sometimes contrasting flavors, and that provides for a more unique experience. So things like, something that's a little sour with something that's a little creamy, that can kind of cut the sourness and really kind of take it and change the flavor a little bit.
Like that lemon dark chocolate bar that I would have never thought to put together.
Exactly.
Somebody put it in front of me and I'm like, yeah, no way in hell, I'm not eating that. Or excuse me, let me say that again.
But it's interesting because so you've got a very tart, lemon puree, right? That forms the center of that. Yep. And then you've got more of a bittersweet dark chocolate shell. And that dark chocolate, when it, at first you get that tart lemon, and then the dark chocolate kind of starts to melt. And what that does is it comes in and really just, it cuts some of that, and then introduces some bitterness. And that whole experience now is this nice kind of well-rounded, fruity, bittersweet, that it's completely different, and it completely changes.
It's actually what I call one of the most luxurious flavors I've had. Who would have known those two things went together so well?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a really, I'm actually working on some other variants, using some other fruit purees and chocolate as well. But that combination of kind of, sour and creamy, sweet and sour, it's not just in chocolate. I mean, obviously, well, there's a lot of sweet and sour foods that are out there that people tend to be attracted to. The other thing, salty and sweet, that salt component is kind of a natural flavor enhancer. And so that salt will kind of elevate some of those aromatics and also the flavors, and when they're melting in your mouth and they're kind of all mixing, and it kind of gives you that little bit of contrast as well as it actually can complement the flavors and enhance a lot of those also. So we have an idea, right, for something. Let's say I make it up in my kitchen, I present it to our team. Everyone's, hey, this is a great idea. Where will that work with our product line? We identify an opportunity to introduce it, kind of talk about the packaging. We want to make sure, obviously, the financials make sense. Can we make it and sell it for a good price? Once we kind of decide on all that, we'll typically do what we call a line trial in our production facility. We'll actually take my recipe that I kind of whipped up in my kitchen, and we'll scale it up, and we'll make it on, more upscale commercial size equipment. Because, a lot of folks, you think, oh, I just have to add a 0 to this or multiply this by 50 or 100. And it doesn't always work that way. And there's a lot of, challenges that arise from just that, that commercialization or scaling up of a recipe. So we want to make sure to test that before we obviously produce the item. And that would be called, like I said, our line trial. And if that's successful, from there, we will take all of the final information that we need to kind of package the product, get the size, the weight, all of that kind of finalized and figured out. And then we will produce the packaging, and start making the product, put it in the packaging, and offer it for sale in our stores. We do also we have a tasting room actually on site here that has been, now that COVID, some of the restrictions are kind of loosening up a little bit. We do use that tasting room as well to sometimes trial and test unique flavors and unique pieces that maybe we're not sure about, or we're just wanting to kind of gauge, get some insight from our customers and consumers. And so we'll use that venue to get some of that feedback as well before we kind of maybe pull the trigger on a brand new product. So
there's never a time when you're like, for the next 3 years, we're not going to come out with anything new.
No, I mean, we're always part of, being with a small brand, we're always trying to, create new news. We're always trying to do something new and different and, constantly be innovating. And that's part of what Forrest, believed in as well, is this idea or this archetype of like the innovator and, coming out with new flavors, utilizing the best ingredients possible and the freshest ingredients possible to really deliver that amazing experience to a consumer. And for us, we have an endless supply. Have an endless supply of ideas for things, and always trying to kind of noodle things and figure out, okay, how could this work or how could that work? And but that dynamic nature of our business and ability to launch products quickly and get things out there that are new and interesting is something that's really, really unique, I think, about us.
Right.
And Mark's even started taking inspiration from the desert because our brand is so rooted in Las Vegas, and we take pride in the fact that we are from here. I mean, what other premium chocolate company can say that they're made in the middle of a desert where it's 115 degrees outside in the middle of summertime, and we're still producing the best chocolate that we know how? And I mean, so Mark over the last couple of years came out with a prickly pear satin cream dark chocolate piece, as well as Herradura tequila chocolate, because everyone knows our liqueurs are incredible.
Right.
We tried to infuse a little bit of that desert sensibility into it. And I can tell you, I'm not even a tequila fan, and that piece of chocolate is incredible.
Oh yeah, me neither. Wink, wink. Actually, so interesting enough, actually, that makes me think of another question, and I'm sorry, I will try and get through this because I don't want to bore you, men, but I definitely like learning about these things. So what do you have something that you came up with, you put on the market, it did okay, but maybe didn't quite meet a certain threshold, and then you had people up in arms when you took it away?
Ooh. I can think of a very, very recent example of a situation like that. And actually, it isn't really the Ethel M Chocolates brand, although we produced it under the Ethel M Chocolates brand. So we actually brought back, I say we, I just grouped myself in with Mark and his team were actually making this happen. But they brought back the original formula of the 1931, right, Mark? Mars bar.
31 or 41. I should know this, but
like the original.
Anyway,
the original date. So back early in the 20th century at some point.
Right.
I mean, this is the original. This is like 6 full almonds, very specifically on top of nougat, and then drenched in milk chocolate.
Right.
It was something that a few of us, including a few of the bigger Mars business as well, thought it would be a great idea to bring this back. And our factory happened to have a unique capability to be able to do that. So we brought it back, and there was some acclaim. Obviously the people who remember that bar, so
right,
some older demographics, it was very nostalgic for them, and they loved it. And obviously I don't remember the original Mars bar. It was incredible as well. I mean, it was a great bar. It's challenging to make, and it didn't take off probably quite as much as we wanted. And so it has been discontinued again, and we have many people who are very frustrated about that. And to those people, we say sorry. We are continuing to build new things that we know you're going to love.
Right.
Just couldn't keep doing that one.
Which makes sense because, I think every single one of us in the world is guilty of, we love the things we love, and many people don't like change. I happen to be a huge fan of change because we have it anyway. We might as well embrace it. But I get why it's difficult for people. But on the other side of that coin is something you just exactly said, which is, you know what, we're going to come up with something else that's going to be as good or better. Give it a try. So that's the great thing about a tasting room. And since we're talking about the tasting room, I want to drop this in. So Stu, you guys are donating a prize to our More Than Pink Walk, correct?
We absolutely are.
Will you tell me a little about that prize, please?
Absolutely. This is something that our team is very, very proud of, that we actually launched last year. And the pandemic broke out, and obviously everyone was sort of sent to their homes. You know, we were all quarantined, and as I said before too, we had to close our retail stores. So we came out with something based on our tasting room at our chocolate factory, and we called it our virtual chocolate tasting experience. And we are still doing them to this day, even though the world is opening up, because people are loving it. And you know, if you can't make it out to Vegas, if you can't make it out specifically to our site in Henderson, you can now do a virtual chocolate tasting from anywhere that we can ship the chocolate with this man here, Mark Mackey, or any of our other awesome chocolatiers. And it's just something that has really helped continue to connect people during this trying time. And so our gift for you guys is, for one lucky winner anyway, we're gonna offer a free virtual chocolate tasting experience for up to 6 people with our chief chocolatier, Mark Mackey. He will walk you guys through. It's an amazing 45 to hour-long experience where you learn about where chocolate comes from, how it's made, how each of our individual pieces of chocolate come together. You're going to get pairing recommendations, whether it's wine or beer or coffee even. And of course, the most important part, you get to enjoy some of our finest chocolate pieces.
Which I'm just like, there's part of me that's like, how do I get invited to the party from the winning person? That's I'm going to start working my angles there. When you told me about it, I was just like, yeah. So it's so funny is I use you guys as an example of what I'm looking for prizes for our event, because that, to me, one, I live here, right? I'm not just visiting Las Vegas / Henderson / Southern Nevada. I live here. This is where I spend my money. This is where I make my friends. This is my home. And to have you guys in our backyard, it is actually pretty exciting when you think about it, right? It's not like your same old. It is different. It is unique. I know that the garden is different and unique as well. And I imagine that might be opening up again too. Is that?
Actually, the cactus garden has been open since summer of last year.
Oh, awesome.
We shut down for a couple of months during the very strict quarantine period. But for those of you who don't know, and you can kind of see over Mark's shoulder there, we have a representation of cactus. We actually have, outside of our amazing chocolate factory, where you can come in to the tasting room, you can see the factory, you can see where the chocolate's made. We have a 3-acre cactus garden outside of the chocolate factory, which again is like, who would have thought, a 3-acre cactus garden outside of a chocolate factory. And during the holidays, we actually put holiday lights all over the cacti. It's a very unique Southwestern experience. There's no Christmas or Hanukkah or anything like it. It's a very, very fun thing to do. And by the way, it's also free and open to the public to come out and do it.
Yep.
And behind that, we also have a 4.5-acre solar garden because we wanted to help power the factory during daylight production. So not all of our chocolate is made using solar. Obviously, if we're producing overnight, that doesn't really work because the sun's down. But during daytime production, all of our chocolates are made using solar energy.
Okay.
So it's just something you can walk all the way through. You can see all of it. It's incredible.
I really liked you guys before, but now I think I love you. So that's awesome. So actually, okay, Mark, let me ask you a quick question, because actually this made me think of something probably stupid, but keep in mind, I eat chocolate. I don't make chocolate.
There are no stupid questions.
Okay. I know you said, temperature in tempering chocolate is important. Is there such a thing as too hot for chocolate?
Absolutely. I mean, so actually I have here, this is actually a real cocoa pod.
No,
You
that's
can see that here. This
really
is
real?
how it has this really orange color. So the beans that we want to make chocolate are actually inside of this pod.
That thing's huge.
It's crazy, right? And it's literally, this is what grows like on the tree, on the trunk or on the branches of the tree. But the chocolate, so from when we harvest the beans inside of this pod, we have to be very, very careful with how we handle it from when we open the pod. And temperature is absolutely like critical to maintaining not just the flavor that we're looking for, and really all of those beautiful chocolate aromas and flavors that you taste when you taste like an Ethel M chocolate or a super premium chocolate. But also even like, some of the phytonutrients, phytochemicals, flavonols, all of those things that are naturally found in chocolate can be affected by temperature as well. And so, making sure that you're controlling that in a very strict format is imperative to getting all of those benefits. Even with that, I mean, when you're roasting the beans, it's even more important. So, we roast cocoa beans, kind of like we roast coffee beans, right? You have light, medium, dark roast. So depending on the specific type of cocoa bean, we're going to roast that to a different profile or a different time and temperature to bring out all of those wonderful characteristics. And you could burn a bean by, just by an increase by maybe 10 or 15 degrees, something that is not very much, but you can actually completely change that bean or overcook or over roast that bean just in that small of a temperature change. So it's very, very important that we maintain strict control over the temperature. And then melting as well. I mean, and actually making the chocolate. So when we take the beans, those are going to get roasted, and then we'll grind them down, and all of that delicious cocoa butter will start to come out, and we start to form the chocolate liquid. At that stage as well, we want to make sure not to heat it above like 120 degrees. As I mentioned before, there are all those compounds and flavors that make up that chocolate flavor that we all know. And a lot of those compounds, if you heat above that 120 degrees, you can actually destroy a lot of those flavors and those nuances. And so again, making sure that we're really coddling it and along the way and maintaining the quality is really important to getting that finished, that beautiful texture and flavor.
Got it. So 3 things come to mind, and I told you I would end on time, so I'm going to focus. I'm going to tell you all 3 now, and then you're going to bam, bam, bam. Ready?
All right.
Number 1 is, just based on what you said right now, I realize there's a million specific chocolate questions that I have in my head. So if someone's interested, they should definitely do the chocolate tasting, because you'll answer those, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We walk through tasting all of the sensory attributes of each piece, as well as give you a little history about where the chocolate, actually the process that we follow to make that specific piece and where chocolate comes from. And those sessions are completely interactive, and you can ask questions, and we try our best to get those answered.
I am, so hot and bothered about that. Got to make that happen. Second thing is, young man, you know a lot about crazy rules and chocolate mumbo jumbo. Is there a chocolate school? When you were 17, did you be like, I gotta make chocolate and I'm gonna go to science school and figure out how this works? How do you get from, I wanna be a fireman at 8, right, to I'm doing chocolate and I know nuances of flavor compounds and that kind of thing?
It's a great question. From a very young age, I've always been extremely passionate and have had this affinity for food, and whether, cooking food and really everything that makes, like the chemical processes. So like why something reacts the way that it does when you heat it, what's actually happening to like a steak when you're cooking it on the grill, why does it taste delicious and brown and all of these things. And so I've always been very interested in that. And, I went to culinary school actually out in New York, Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. And, from there, discovered this unique field of research and development for food and actually for confectionery or chocolate. And, I was an intern actually at Mars in New Jersey. And there I just discovered this really deep passion for developing chocolate and understanding, how complex that material was and how it needed to be treated so carefully to really bring out all those flavors. It's something that just continues to challenge me and keeps perking my curiosity. And so I've always really been just so interested in it, and I'm always learning something new, every day. So it's been almost 16 years, which I can't believe it myself, but
Yeah.
It's been quite an experience and journey. And, it's one that even every day, as I mentioned earlier, just getting up and like, I get to go to work and make chocolate. Like, I mean, how can you not love that? Like, how can you not, just be driven by that?
You're actually preaching to the choir, because one of the things I told Stu the first time I met him, if I'm not mistaken, is I get up every day and I say, I'm gonna help cure cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Every day. I'm like, I'm this part of it down here in the corner, not that big of a deal, but it's still, I'm participating, and I love my job. Love it, because I am going to be one of a large group of people that are going to eliminate breast cancer forever. Yay, right? So that's
Absolutely.
one of my plans. With that in mind, Stu, Susan G. Komen, Nevada, and Ethel M Chocolates have a partnership plan of something we are going to do together. Is this correct?
This is absolutely correct, and we are very excited for this. So should I give the news or should you?
I think I want you to give the news, because you know what? We have learned something today, and I'm not as articulate as you gentlemen, and I want somebody good to do this. So help me.
I disagree, first of all. I think you're very articulate. I think you're incredible. But I'm happy to share. So we are going to be very excited, and we don't have an exact date yet, but we will be launching a partnership product with Susan G. Komen, which will have a special Susan G. Komen ribbon on a beautiful box of chocolates. He's got it right there.
Love
We're
it.
incredibly excited for this.
The logo across.
I love it. I am so excited about, now you told me a little bit about, this is the 5, is that the 5 chocolate box?
That's our 5-piece classic sampler.
Yes.
And I can actually tell you which pieces are in there, because hopefully it'll tempt you to want to buy one, because for every one of these that we sell, we will be sharing a portion of the sales with Susan G. Komen in support of such a great cause that you guys have.
Oh, tell me what's in it, because I'm going to
So
be
we've got that. Milk chocolate sea salt caramel here.
Oh,
with
yes,
this
please.
Fabulous French gray sea salt. We have our dark chocolate raspberry satin cream.
That's my favorite.
This is our milk chocolate pecan caramel rapture. So
Oh my gosh.
buttery caramel, roasted pecans, really, really awesome piece, this one. This is that lemon satin cream. So this is actually the piece that the lemon dark chocolate lemon bar was inspired from.
Okay.
So everybody will get a chance to try that amazing combination of the semi-sweet dark chocolate, tart lemon. And the final one, this is our almond butter crisp.
Oh my
gosh. So this is actually kind of like an almond butter toffee. So it's this really soft bite of toffee, butter roasted almonds, a little bit of milk chocolate. It really is a nice way to kind of finish off the 5-piece or the tasting that you'll have with this box.
Yeah, I'm a little excited. Probably a little more than I should be, but that's okay. I'm gonna do it anyway. I already have a long list of friends lining up to purchase the chocolate because I keep saying Ethel M Chocolate. I'm so excited.
Yes.
So I'm excited. I love seeing our ribbon on a ribbon. That was very clever, Stu.
It's, you know what, that's how we do. And by the way, I mean, we're excited too, because this partnership is incredible. You guys are doing amazing work. You guys are, like you said, you guys are helping cure cancer.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring happiness to people. And between the two of those things, I think our cause is noble. I think our outcome is going to be good. And at the end of the day, you know, it's just a great fit. And by the way, Ethel M Chocolates, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So we are only 1 year older than Susan G. Komen, which was founded in 82.
Yes.
1981. So the partnership is just meant to be.
You know what? You are right. And I think what we're going to do is, I didn't realize that. And it's funny because I got an email from one of our constituents on I was like Tuesday, being like, hey, you know, this is the month that we started Susan G. Komen here in Nevada. And I was like, well, I think we need to celebrate for the year. And now that you guys are this, I'm like, no, that's it. We're doing it.
That's right.
We're going to do something. I love it.
Love it. Yep, we're in. Thank you so much for partnering with us on this.
Oh my gosh, you know, are you kidding? You know, you've been on my list, my target list for a long time, mostly because I do love that you guys are here. Yeah. I love that you guys produce here. I think it's awesome.
Yep.
And I'm hearing myself echo. That's the key. It's I'm supposed to let you guys go. That's like get the hell out of here, Sherry. But I did want to tell you, I do agree. Chocolate is medicine. Mental health is really important in this crazy time that we're in. We are trying to cure cancer, but we have a daily need, right? To be there for each other. And we really appreciate that Ethel M's is there for us. I hope you do realize how much we all love chocolate and the work that you guys are doing. I know it seems silly in some instances, but I know you guys realize you do a lot of things for the community. You do a lot of things for mental health.
Yeah, we love hearing that, and we'll continue to do that. And by the way, just so everyone who's watching this knows, in case you don't win the virtual chocolate tasting for 6, we also want to make sure everyone, has something. So we have a special promo code for anybody who wants to go to the website. They can go to ethelm.com, use SGK10 to save 10% on your next purchase. So just a little consolation prize if you don't get the virtual tasting.
That is awesome. You guys are awesome. That is nice. I will be doing that now, but I do a separate statement, and then I will let you go, I promise, is how is the website where they go if they want to purchase their own virtual tasting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do 2 forms of virtual tastings. We'll do them on like key holidays or something like that, where you just have to sign up by a date. We'll ship you a kit, and you participate at that predetermined date and time. You can also do your own private version of the virtual tasting if you have a large group of people, for your business, for your family, for your friends, whatever you want to do. And you can work with us and actually request a special date and time, and you'll actually just have a private group with either Mark or one of our other awesome chocolatiers who can host you. So 2 versions, but ethelm.com, that's where you find it, and all the information is there.
And I want to clarify, we get Mark for our price, right?
Yes,
of course.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna want Mark. Sorry, I want you both, but I'll settle for us, Mark. Okay.
No, I'm probably going to show up there too, just because I want to watch Mark.
I love it. I love it. All right, you guys really rock. Thank you so much. I feel that there's going to be way more questions. Like I got them going in my head, but I do appreciate the time, and maybe we'll have you back, especially Mark, if you come up with something like really new and spectacular, we got to tell the world about. Let us help you tell.
Sure, absolutely. No, I'm excited to do it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yep. Thank you.